here. I mean, this isn't, again, this is a matchup that you can quite easily take this Renekton into if you want to. Definitely possible to punish a Sion and have control, have priority over him through the early stages of this game. So if we're looking at those win conditions that we've highlighted for Xiaoxu, then maybe that's the case, but the Ambessa gets locked in instead, and maybe arguably an even better matchup and more favourable again for Xiaoxu on this top side if he can make some plays happen in that top lane. We know that this is an area that has been previously successful for JDG. We need to see it again, though.
Yep, absolutely. They did, in fact, give the Azir trade over to AL, who were not hesitant to lock that one in. Scout going on the Talia, so not necessarily going for a 1v9 carry, but still very mobile, can affect the map a lot. And AL picking up the Corki, going for something confident, not wanting to risk getting banned out once again. And again, the Corki is X and O for Hope right now in this split. So certainly a highly competitive pick for him. And now they're going to thin out the bot lane pool themselves.
And something that he's defaulted back to very, very commonly. One of our, I think one of the few AD carries that I sort of trust on the Corki. I mean, he can have such a really great impact, but so frequently we'll see teams and players not quite able to fully utilize that. But again, Hope, one of the people that we trust with this pick. As anyone's legend locking their 3 carries to begin with, it means that jungle and that support role can get pinched. We've got a lot of supports still up and available, Rel notably that big ticket support that we see very frequently locked in for teams. And I really like the Rel takeaway here if AL can get their hands on it on this second phase. Denying an extra dive champion who, when you've already got to be staring down Ambessa and Vi, that can be pretty big. I mean, by extension, things like Braum kind of increasing priority for Kael. Maybe even a Renata or a Bard or something like that you can take a really good disengage support and stop all of this engage that they've got.
2 diving bot laners removed by AL. Peyz, Lucian, and the guys are taken away. Xin and Skarner. Rules from JDG. We're still waiting to see what that Tarzan pick is going to be. So it looks like AL considering a support lock-in right now. Kael had a pretty solid game 1. Relatively quiet compared to the rest of AL, but we're still doing a job when required. And the Rel will be locked in right here. The Alistar, of course, already removed by the Fearless format. And now let's see what JDG have for us. To maybe give Peyz a little bit more chance to play the game. A little bit more self-sufficiency. Potentially something they can still do well in the 2v2, as their lane was pretty good. Yeah, Ezreal could be a choice right here. Looks like that's what they're thinking about. And yeah, I liked what Peyz and Shaw were doing early on. So something they can still be aggressive with would be nice. But instead, they're still trying to lock down that late game. But at least they have a spell shield now. So that's something, I suppose.
Okay, they considered one, have opted for the other, and I do think that this pairs much nicer with the dive as well. Just Sivir movement, speeding everybody to get in, always feels good. And then you've got a Braum there as well, which does feel a little bit just disjointed, I will say, but it's a good laning matchup as well. It gives now an option for a pivot, let's say, for JDG. If they need to play these teamfights a little bit slower, I mean, anyone's legend, if they try to dive into JDG, are really going to struggle going through Unraveled Earth into a Braum as well. Like, that's not a good combo. So something that can play a little bit more slower, a little bit further back is definitely something that I would hope for. Instead, they go completely against that and decide, no, we're diving and we're going to dive well.
Yep, Tarzan locking in that J4 to round out a pretty meaty front line for AL, I will say. Sion, Jarvan, Rel, all in front of Hope and Shanks. So Shanks should have plenty of space to try and dish out that damage later on, and Hope on the Corki holding down that mid in early game, perhaps. So for JDG, if you're looking for a dive, at least you don't have to pick from too many targets, because there's only really 2 that you want to be diving on. You
they
take
are
one away.
Mobile. Yeah.
Yes, if you can get one of them out, you've taken away half of the entire damage profile of AL. So big value with a catch, but making that catch happen is far from easy, I think.
It is. They're going to have to go through a very big front line. It's all about if we can see Xiaoxu take these nice flank angles and really, if that can time up nicely with the way that we see Vi engage as well. And I do want to, kind of highlight that when you've got this slightly desynced composition, right? Normally, I think that Nautilus here for JDG would have gone really nicely, and they could just like start a fight, right? At a whim, they could just go, okay, we want this target, we'll try and take them down. Maybe the Sion makes it a little bit more difficult, but it is what it is. So when you're thinking about how JDG look to play this fight out, it is difficult because they've got to try and use Ambessa flanks on one side, time that well with a Sivir ulti to get the Talia on another flank angle, with a Vi trying to go through some other side as well. So it is definitely a situation where JDG have got to execute very, very well and one where they've got to kind of route this Sion before they can get access to the backline.
Yes, not the easiest of tasks, that's for sure. JDG were able to find ways onto the carries in game 1, but ultimately could not win the team fights. As out we head now onto the Rift for game number 2. JDG looking to put a win on the board against the massive threats that are anyone's legend. For now. Jio's still
good
strong.
fan support. Yeah.
Absolutely. And after that game 1, I think that's fair. Both teams gave us plenty to cheer about.
Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh
It's
no.
not going to have much to cheer about here. Right into the fully stacked Sion queue. Gets the shield from a Vault Breaker and will escape from the flag drop from Tarzan there. Holds onto his summoners, but bit of a sweaty one to start this off.
Yeah, Q start Vi as well is not the best clear rate of the jungle. Normally you'll actually see, you know, sometimes you can get up to level 3 without taking that Q, and that's not necessarily going to be the case, as Kael's going to try and stop this ward from being destroyed.
Testing that early vision. Dro is going to, alright, just get out of here, man. Just leave me alone, please.
I have 2 sweepers.
Clears it out. Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope now.
I'm not above using both here, sir.
To get a cheeky trade over onto Zhuo. Nice little advantage for hoping Kael to play with right there, but Peyz is setting up aggressively on the wave as well. Shouldn't get out onto this bot side.
And like we say, Fortune, largely okay. Actually able to get through his Raptors in a reasonable pace.
Yeah, really just a mental difference, that kind of occurrence at level 1. Doesn't actually really lose anything at all. A bit of time standing in the brush, perhaps, as top lane is trading pretty heavily. Flandre to level 2 first. Xiaoxu, as we said, does have a good matchup to play out here and was pretty proficient in that first game, so our hopes are high. With this newer player on the JDG roster, Scout and Shanks as well, trading very heavily. This does seem like the way that it works quite a lot right now is actually bot lane. He's in for a 2v2. The Bromstuns are going to stack up right there and hope just about having it time out before it clicks off. But it does seem like the trades are very, very heavy in most lanes. You often trade your way down to about 200 HP in any matchup, and then you're kind of playing on the edge for the next few minutes.
Yeah, and that's when you're looking at, you know, Jarvan and Vi, 2 junglers who can very quickly make their impact felt. To maybe, you know, not necessarily go for these, you know, full clears. Let's try and make something a little bit crazy happen in those lanes. And you are getting to see here, you know, a little bit of the issue of taking Q level 1 behind the play here. You know, Vi and Jarvan probably matched clears in terms of their speeds. It's not like one completely outpaces the other. But you can see not having access to that attack speed steroid or the attack reset. It's going pretty poorly as... Hold on.
Ooh, Xiaoxu with the flash in, Flandre with the solo kill in top side. Tarzan was ready if needed, but no requirement to get involved. Flandre putting Xiaoxu in his place.
Yeah, that's not good at all
Oh, no.
for JDG. This was, again, a counter-pick matchup. This is one that they should have had the run of things for, as we are seeing now Tarzan and Jun come to blows.
Tried to weave it out, but shouldn't clips him. Shanks pretty low, but actually forces the issue back onto this Vi. Shanks diving in deep. Low HP it may be, but commits hard for the reward, and Scout can do nothing about it.
Yeah, and unfortunately this early on, the Talia doesn't necessarily have the damage to really compete there or to help out, as Xiaoxu once again finds himself in a bunch of trouble here. Gets knocked up, shield pop.
He's very low. Flandre with one more skill, can't get it done. The grass brock is big, but Xiaoxu struggling. Tarzan now ready to threaten, actually hope to fish for a flag right there, and they can maybe stop the recall.
Should be able to with Q here, can stop him under the turret. Now Xiaoxu's just going to have to fight his way out through Tarzan.
Tarzan with the red buff keeps him slow. The dashes are good for Ambessa, but can't escape the flag and drag. And a second death for JDG's top side. This is a very different story from game 1. It's not the story JDG wanted to be reading right now.
And this is almost the Xiaoxu that we expected coming into split 3. It's been completely opposite for the most part of this split, but Flandre has done such a good job in this matchup. Look at that CS disparity. Look now at the experience disparity as well. Flandre is almost level 6, where Xiaoxu has barely touched level 4. He's going to have to walk his way back out to that bot side, and now it's JDG who are forced to swap to make sure that their, you know, Ambessa isn't just completely ran out of the game.
Oh shoot, sheepishly arriving in the bot side as Hope and Kael. Oh my word, brother. You've got to expect this. Let's not drop a third one. Stun comes there, crash out. Poke with the damage, shredding through the Gatling gun. Not too bad for Xiaoxu there, but that was I was about to lose it if we were gonna go for the quick triple.
Yeah, that would have been, I mean, honestly, probably very damning for the situation and the state of this game. I think, fortunately, you know, earlier on we did see in the picture-in-picture there that Zhuo and Peyz did force both summoner spells out of hope a little bit earlier on. While we saw all of that topside scuffling going down. And again, we are seeing some very even trades through this mid lane. Shanks able to keep Scout largely in place. And now for Flandre, it's about trying to get as much gold, as much experience as he can. I think he's probably fine to walk up and, you know, start CSing, start taking these creeps away without feeling too fearful for his HP bar, where Xiaoxu does not have that same luxury, right? He can't build into that early Bramble Vest, the early armor to keep himself safe. He has to go for these damage items or he's just useless.
Stunned again with the crash down. This time the Ignite throws it away, I think, and Xiaoxu limping back to tower. He needs to be careful of a dive, if anything, and JDG are aware of this. A TP down from Zhuo again to bail this Ambessa out.
And now this means that the gold that Peyz is going to get is now a little harder to come by, right? You know that Zhuo was there to offer support for the Sivir and make it so that she's able to farm safely versus Flandre, but that's just not at all the case anymore. And you can see that actually AL are looking to really push this advantage, trying to make it as difficult as possible for Xiaoxu to get his way back into this game again. I want you to keep your eyes on this experience where Flandre is about to hit level 7. The next time he gets any form of creeps, he's going to be more than happy to ding over it and be in a great spot where, again, Xiaoxu barely able to access, you know, level 6 at this point. AL are doing a great job at pushing the pace of this game, and all really off of this Flandre Scion.
It's looking like a game of 3-card multi for JDG right now. They're swapping these lanes back and forth, back and forth. You can't tell where anyone's going to show up, but ultimately AL standing resolute and accruing more and more advantage amid the floundering of JDG in this lane phase. Dragon picked up by anyone's legend, an Ocean to keep them topped up in those early trades. You got the Feet of Warfare locked down as well. And this is looking like a much more comfortable early game for our presumed favorites right here. Peyz now arrives in the mid lane. Has covered every base so far now in this first 7 minutes. Maybe this one will go a little better for them. Who knows?
And I mean, this is what we call the AD carry pit of despair in terms of items right now, where you want to go for a Yuntal, but you can never get the gold for a BF sword. So it's just homelessness for JDG until he gets that BF sword. He needs to sit in mid lane until he has 1300 gold. And then he can maybe look to do something with his team, look to get a nice recall and have that first item be picked up. But it is full despair time for Peyz right now, and honestly the same to be said for the lot of this JDG roster. As you can see, Flandre just... yeah, it's just walk up, mate. Why not?
Yeah, a Bramble Vest and a dream is all that's needed right there. Scout just cannot touch this man with a tear in lucidity boots. It's Tarzan starting up the grubs. Now, there's a contest from JDG here. We've got a bit of movement, bit of action on the map right here, Zhuo. Into the pit, right back out.
Oh no, the timing!
Connects to the TP perfectly from AL's top side, and Scout just disappears. And now Tarzan with the Cataclysm gets a flash out of Zhuo. Hope will hunt them out of the river there. But that is just exceptional from Flandre.
And you have to assume that that's chance. That is just pure coincidence. But Scout had flash. I don't know that there was a frame that he could use it. Like, that timing was just so perfect that there's nothing that Scout can do. He gets caught up. He gets taken down. Let's take another look at this. And Flandre here curves it nicely, picks up some minions on the way through. Hold this, buddy. Oh!
Yeah, it's actually just the hitbox is just on top of your TP point. It's just it's frame 1. There's no chance. It's... oh my word. Devastating for Scout to head in here and lose out straight away. The grubs not even going to be picked up for JDG. All 3 for AL. As now we are 2,000 down.
And I will say, we've ripped on Scout a lot this split for some suboptimal performances. I don't want that to be one of the situations that people go, no. Scout lol. That was chance. That was yeah. I very frequently am a proponent of League of Legends is not necessarily about luck. And whilst that isn't about luck, and yes, the timing comes into it, that's unfortunate. That's just not the way that really should ever go.
League is a vast, infinite tapestry of possibilities from minute 1 to minute 40. And that's just, sometimes the game is just built to tilt you, and that's a tilter for Scout. And unfortunately, he's going to have to try to shake that one off, try to get to that first damage item. And Flandre now 2-0, having such a strong performance on the losing matchup, the weak side Sion, dominating this early.
I do have good news for JDG fans, though, and that's that Peyz is out of the pit of despair. He's bought his BF sword. So from now on, item purchases are a lot easier for the Sivir to come by. You know, Yuntal completion is less than 1300. You know, future BF swords will probably come off the back of fights and jungle camps being funneled into him as well. So it's a lot easier for this Sivir to get access to gold in this game. And now Peyz might be able to do something in these team fights.
Let's go. Let's hear it for something, everybody. Something for Peyz. Here we go. And hope we're going to be just, you know, trundling towards that Triforce without a care in the world. As AL, with some aggressive positioning around this bot tower. It's a 3v3 for now. No AD carries present and should with big damage. Scout as well. With the Vi Taliyah combo, Cataclysm has dropped. Shun slips away. Zhuo on the wrong side of town, but in back goes the Vi. A clutch shield for Tarzan keeps him alive, and Scout now shredded down by the Sand Soldiers. JDG, a valiant effort, but AL stands strong again.
And this is Shanks Azir again. You're trying to go toe-to-toe with one of the best Azirs that we have. Hope, though.
Oh, Peyz. Oh, BF sword time. Here's for something in the mid lane. The barrier's traded. Flash for Hope, but Peyz with a solo kill. Let's go.
Let's give it up for something, everybody. Peyz with the BF sword. The one person on this team so far this game who's, you know, been giving what it's worth. He's been trotting around the map like a horse out for show, trying to find any creeps where he can get them to make sure that his laners and solo laners aren't getting absolutely bullied. And then he comes up with a solo kill in the mid lane up against Hope, who really has been one of the most consistent AD carries in this league. The fact that he's been, you know, outplayed there, been bested in the 1v1. A big win for JDG, one that they sorely needed after that bot lane play.
Yeah. Let's take a look at this bot lane fight as well. You know, Taliyah Vi is a very, very strong combo. AL with very aggressive, confident positioning here.
Yeah, and I mean, they take down one really nicely, and then they can't quite get out. Really good flashes, actually. The fact that he tries to go back in, again, maybe just a little bit too overzealous. And honestly, maybe if they find that kill onto Tarzan, the fight is completely different, because they would have applied Braum stacks onto Shanks. He would have gone down. Yeah. So it's just that small thing of one W being up is just the difference maker. And here's the fight in the mid lane.
Hope just thinks he wins that. He goes in aggressively, trades evenly, but Peyz has the potion ticking, you can see, critically.
Big one goes wide there. He flashes over both Q and another rocket. So Peyz does really well. Hold on, they're fighting again.
And we return to the scene of the crime here for AL, but this time it's looking a little different. TP from Xiaoxu, though, can maybe threaten Shanks out there. Scoop back, but Flandre running the train over JDG once again, and it goes even worse the second time around.
Yeah, that one was Flandre with a nuclear missile just targeting Scout. That ulti destined for the Taliyah's face as anyone's legend running roughshot over this bot side. Absolutely tearing JDG to sunders, and it's really not getting any better for this JDG roster. Everything getting, honestly, pretty difficult for them. And again, as this game goes later and later, yes, they've got the scaling aspect of the Sivir, but trying to auto-attack an Azir as Sivir is never easy. And Shanks 3-0 and 4 is so much further ahead of the curve.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just AL again, returning to the exact same spot, and they match the same duo coming around the corner, but there's just no hesitation this time.
Yeah, there's just nothing really that it feels like JDG can do here. Xiaoxu gets on top of Shanks, but a quick flash gets him away from the shuffle. And then it's just a headshot from Flandre. Like, immediately. Bullet train straight on top of the Taliyah. She's down in levels, down in gold, down in really every metric you can look to conceive of. And JDG don't have really all that much to think about where they've got a bright spot. They've got Peyz, who's slightly ahead of the Corki, but I don't think Peyz is getting through Flandre before 4 or 5 items.
No, not at this rate, when Scout has been so summarily shut down this game by the Shanks Azir. There's just no reason for Flandre to adjust the build path. It's just going to be armor stacked on armor, a gestural null magic mantle, just to pay a little bit of respect, I suppose. But ultimately, Peyz has to be the one, and Flandre is the one, unfortunately, right now. Absolutely.
I mean, looking at the gold, you can see that it's not just Flandre either, as much as he has been running the show through the early game. Shanks and Tarzan have also done a very good job at getting themselves gold, and I think that, you know, as much as this will be most likely be another win on the Corky notch for Hope, maybe one where he's more eager to forget than others.
Yeah. Certainly present, but not necessarily the biggest part of it so far. The top side of AL doing more than enough work for an entire 5 stack, as the Herald's going to be stacked up. They will likely be, I was about to say uncontested on this, but the TPs are coming in, and JDG looks like they might be want to try and catch them on the back end, but reticent to just stroll in as they have in the past. A ghost from Shuo to look for maybe a Q, lands it onto Hope, but that looks like no. Around the corner again. Smashes into Shuo, not too much damage passed back, and Scout's actually starting to do something here. But AL, they still walk away with the objective.
Again, you know, if Scout gets free time with the Scion, he's the one person on the team who can do large amounts of damage. That Longsword not doing, or the Null Magic Mantle not doing the greatest, and a good wall actually stops the Herald in its tracks. Peyz, though, takes half of his HP to try and do that, as the rest of the minions will go the long way round.
Yeah, the Herald taking an abnormal path right here is going to get into range and doesn't seem to remember that charging is possible. It seems to have become thoroughly bamboozled by the whole affair, and JDG actually managed that pretty darn well, holding on to most of that mid lane turret HP.
Yeah, and all that said, they are still down, you know, 6,000 gold, albeit here, and it's really not the greatest position for them to find themselves in, but you know, stalling the play is always going to be really important, but AL are so far ahead that they can just continue to make these plays. Look at the top side, right? Shanks is going to get this turret uncontested. This isn't a point of conversation for AL. It's just a foregone conclusion, and it's more gold being funneled into the Azir, who now has the luxury of being able to go for Zhonya's Hourglass super early on. Usually we don't see this, and Flandre just TP'd straight in.
Turning to the mid lane tower, Troy doing what he can to hold the line, and the tower's still pretty healthy, but AL bearing down on this last remaining outer. Tarzan on vision, doesn't even matter. The threat of him could put the fear into JDG as they're pulling the recalls. So
fortunately enough here, JDG still do have Sivir, right? The notorious AD carry that clears waves indefinitely and doesn't really falter in that. You know, you just auto-attack the wave 3 times, you put W on, and you're pretty much good to go. So the siege capability for anyone's legend without that Baron in this mid lane is pretty weak, not by nature of their champions, but by nature of Peyz.
Absolutely. So they will now manage to get Peyz a chance to get back to base and buy, hoping for that second knight to come through for him. The Flicker Blades now online. The Sivir continues to scale as the pressure mounts on JDG. Hold AL back. Putting down defensive vision lines, trying to make sure they're not getting caught out. And the Dragon in 1 minute as well. Cloud Rift, game number 2. But AL would love the extra mobility. We'll see if JDG even wants to contest this right now. They're not going to feel strong, but maybe they'll feel like they have no choice.
Oh, yeah. Shanks is, in terms of gold, a full item up over Scout here with being able to buy a guise, be able to buy this stopwatch effectively as well with the Seeker's Arm Guard. Just feels like that this Talia is so far from relevance that even though, you know, she might be able to do a little bit of damage to Flandre, it's just nothing. It pales in comparison to Shanks as a big one to summarily thrown over the wall. Just yoinkies away the Raptor.
Yeah, again, it's a game designed to frustrate JDG and Hope just piling it on. Peyz will at least get a red buff to work with right here, but you could feel that JDG, they're just kind of stifled in this game, waiting for something to happen so they can try to desperately scrap their way out of it. The Dragon now spawning, and AL making their way over. We'll see if JDG wants to even think about it, but finding a path in proves hard enough. But it seems like the answer is a resounding no.
Let's recall. Let's use this time to get a little bit more, or a few more items, really. Well, we know that AL aren't going to be able to make a play on the map. They are able to make a play for neutral objectives, so that's going to be good enough for JDG to say, yep, we're out of there. Actually, we've had enough. And I think really it's on that third item. And Peyz, unfortunately, this game, he probably has to go LDR, right? Like, you're not cutting through Sion without it. And that means that you're delaying your Infinity Edge, which means that Sivir needs 4 items before she's strong, which means you've got to stall the game out for your Sivir to get, you know, what is that, 6,400 gold almost? Like,
yeah.
Good luck is my message to JDG, because that's not an easy task.
Yeah, Godspeed, my friends. This is going to be a tough one. AL, they haven't been pushing quite as hard as they were previously, where they were running it into bot lane and forcing the issue multiple times. They have slowed down the pace. They've got themselves the Dragon. The Atakan now, though, has given them something to wait for. League of Legends has offered an objective for them to take, and again, JDG looks like they're trying to contest this time, though.
I mean, they're late coming into this. This is pretty much already gone, and there's a Scion behind them as well. Oh no, oh no.
Get out, oh dear. Flandre crashing in again. Just Xiaoxu though. Doesn't take too much damage, not that Shun can really do anything about that, as the Weaver's Wall slows AL from following up. The Atakan's already done.
Good wall there from Scout to stop AL from just slaughtering them in the river, but again, they lost out on the Atakan, and it feels like they'd kind of just forgotten that it was going to happen. AL did a really good job at just making sure they were in the right place to make sure that they could take down both of those neutral objectives without too much of a say-so. Not that I think that the fight would have been winning for JDG if they'd have gone to take it, but if they were going to decide to do that fight, it would have been good to see them be there a little bit earlier on.
JDG back to the drawing board. No objectives contested in the last few minutes. The items slowly trickling in. It is the last whisper for Peyz, so we're shooting for the LDR, but it's a long way to go there, as Tarzan now, tired of waiting, heads on to Shun and will potentially force the flash. There it goes, but another flash in from Kael, gets another from Scout. Cataclysm from Tarzan. This is between two towers, remember, but it just doesn't matter. Hope's 2 items deep, and he's got the burst to knock down Talia.
Yeah, and you can see Peyz there again. Large amounts of DPS uptime. Let's look at the HP bars of AL. Oh, one redemption has done all of the work that Sivir did in that team fight, and that's the flash forced from the Sivir as well. Tarzan still has flash, so the next time his ulti comes back up, you can guarantee this Talia, this Sivir are going to be the targets, they're going to be the focus. And as much as we talked about the fact that this AL comp has only really got 2 carries, Shanks has not been threatened, not been touched at all this game. Still has flash, still has this massive gold advantage over the Talia. And in a game that we were, or in a series rather, where we were sort of quiet about that mid-jungle duo, hoping that it'd be more about the AD carries and the top laners. In game number 2, 6,500 gold lead between just 2 members.
Oh my word. AL putting on a show here. Approaching now, the third items are going to start coming in before too long for AL. Shanks detouring to upgrade those boots with the triumphant setting there. And now we might just be settling back into another cooling off period until that soul comes through. Just no pressure on AL, no urgency needed to try and close this one out. Series is in their control. Game 2 is as well. They can play it by the book.
Play nice and slow, nice and easily, just like you say.
Flandre.
Dot your I's, cross your T's as spell shield.
Peyz.
Oh, okay, just on the wrong side of the wall.
For Xiaoxu as well, the mobility helping Ambessa slip out of danger right there. JDG aggressively posturing. They ult in onto Tarzan. In fact, Peyz needs to get into position. He can't auto-attack. Where's the damage? Xiaoxu is deep. Wasting some time. Tarzan's back and he gets stunned up, but Shanks has arrived. Slides in with the shuffle and eliminates the carries of JDG. Dro now the last one to head back to base. That's John Dorian Gaming, the way they got scrubbed out right there.
That's a 5-0, and that's a fight that just wasn't even close. The gold lead will paint you the picture of this game, unfortunately, and anyone's legend here back to their winning ways from the rough hangover they had to start out this split. And I mean, this was a series that I was looking to see them end with, you know, conviction almost. After game number 1 was quite close, but they did manage to find the W. In game number 2, it's been anything but that. JDG have had no say, no options, no chances in this series, and you can see AL, the second they see anybody, they're just willing to engage. And look at Scout, look at Peyz on the other side of this wall, waiting, just biding their time for when they can go in. But unfortunately, there's just never a good time. Shanks scoops his way over, and you know, Zhuo left to the wolves, kind of, please guys, let me out, let me live, and that was a no.
It was in fact not a time to go in, unfortunately, for Scout and Peyz. The well-known, experienced, tenured carries of JDG just cannot get it done today, as Jarvan, again looking for more. Flandre eternally on the flank, ready to cut them off. Zhuo picked apart. A flash with a cataclysm. Peyz with nowhere left to run. And AL By the book again, the fights are just unlosable. The gold lead is insurmountable. And this series looks like it's not long for this world.
And they're spoiled for choice here, Trajan. They've got Soul, they've got Baron, they've got mid lane turrets. Like, what do they want from this position? Well, they've taken down 4. I mean, by the book is true because they see that the enemy jungle is alive and they're going to take them down before they head to the big purple worm.
And forget the objectives. There's another kill to pick up on the map. Inhib turret falls, but the inhib still stands. No supers just yet. Now the Baron and the Soul could be an option. Got some respawns coming in here. Scout's going to be able to get down on the map, but Shun, that jungler dying last. Devastating for JD's hopes. Baron, I mean, surely going to be taken.
Even if AL haven't spent their gold from that fight, like, they're still so much further ahead in this game. It just doesn't matter. And maybe they'll lose a dragon off the back of this, but I don't even know that that's going to be the case here, as anyone's legend are more than able to get back out on the map nice and quickly. There's no real presence from JDG. You can see Zhuo, doing his best to try and establish some form of line into their bot side jungle. But they're going to have to give Soul, it's a turtle underneath the Nexus turrets kind of game, and a pray and a hope that Sivir can maybe do something. But versus a Baron, we just know that that's not possible.
We're going to need some sort of Jin-Air Sivir base defense angle to come through here. If we're still here in, 35 minutes, perhaps we could be looking at that option. Sadly, that critical 4-item mark that we need for Peyz to hit that breakpoint is looking further and further away. The Soul now picked up, matched up with the Baron buff, matched up with a 17,000 gold lead. Flandre wasting no time getting the spot push on the go.
It's the final, part of this siege, you'd like to think, is take down the 2 inhibitors that are open, use the Baron to do that. I mean, for JDG, what do you even do in this position? You don't really have a good engaged threat with the Vi, who's going to go in and just get blown up immediately. The Ambessa, the same thing. It's just a really sad spot. Oh my god, Tarzan!
Peyz gets away from the Cataclysm. He's getting to right-click at least, but Shanks' right-clicks, they just look a little bit better, guys. 2 deaths already. Xiaoxu hounded from his own base. And just like that, anyone's legend wrap it up without a second thought. That's them locked for upper bracket, everybody. JDG, sadly, will have to settle for the play-ins.
Yeah, that was disgusting to watch. A swift 2-0 in that second game for anyone's legend. There was a 20,000 gold lead come the end of the game, which is something that I've personally never seen in League of Legends before. But AL, absolute destruction.
Just absolute destruction. Couldn't have put it better myself, especially in that last game. Everyone popping off individually. Flandre doing so much work early on, crashing into those fights with abandon. Shanks, another quietly valuable early and mid into hugely impactful team fights. This was everyone's legend today. Everyone was going crazy in that second game, and that shows just the well-rounded nature of this comp. When everyone's firing on all cylinders, they are just unmatched, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of I guess the expectation for anyone's legend coming into this series is that they would look like a team that could 2-0 JDG quite nicely. And they've done exactly that. For JDG now, it's about making sure that they get 5th place. They've got a double header versus Weibo to close out their season. And hopefully they can, come out on top in a couple of those. They've been a team that so far have been exactly where they're supposed to be. They've lost to the teams above them. They've beat the teams below them. The question is, do they fall above or below Weibo?
Yes, and they have that double-header matchup against them to work that one out in the final matches of the split. And if we kind of, again, take a look back at what they showed us here today, that game 1 especially gave us a lot to be happy about. It looked like they were more on the same page. Game 2, however, we seemed to fall apart a little bit again. We had questions about the choices in draft. The individuals just were suffering so much in their matchups that we never really got to see much of the team play that looked so good in game 1. There was just such a gold deficit from minute 1 in almost every lane.
Yeah,
what are we really supposed to do?
And I think that this is a really big performance from Flandre. I mean, coming in, right, we were talking about potential 3rd team All-Pro votes and looking at, maybe Xiaoxu can put a foot in that ring. This series, like game 1, he was fine, serviceable, maybe could be considered. Game 2, he got bodied. He got destroyed when he had counter pick as well, which for me is like the more telling part of this, right? When he had counter pick in game number 1, he did fine, he did okay, but he had counter pick in game number 2 and then got absolutely destroyed, and it felt like a completely contrasting, sort of viewpoint on this, where you now have to consider it's just not Xiaoxu, unfortunately. Maybe not for the split, but for this series, like, Flandre just put himself back in contention at the very least.
Yeah, when we're looking for this series to potentially help us decide that, Flandre's put up probably 2 MVP games in a row. The first one was officially decided. The second one would be absolutely reasonable if he comes out with another one, to be honest. So that kind of at least makes the immediate decision for us on that basis of that data. But yeah, the rest of AL, of course, absolutely pulling their weight in that game. So for JDG, we'll see what they can do against the Nirvana teams. Of course, we've already seen, sharks like EDG down there looking very strong. NIP 9-1. There are some very, very competent threats down there. And JDG, yes, they are certainly better than teams below them in a sense, but whether they're actually better than teams at top of Nirvana, that's going to be an open question.
Yeah, I mean, I think the NIP have sort of started to come into their own again. They only really lost 1 series against EDG at the start of the split, and that was, one of those games that we can maybe put a little bit of stock and credence into the fact that these 2 teams are pretty level with one another. But then you've got an EDG roster who have just absolutely slaughtered 2-0 easily this morning up against LNG, and they've got lots and lots of good points to be thinking about as well. So you have to be careful as JDG, and I think that fortunately for the play-ins, again, they're not going to pick. They're very likely not going to pick your EDGs, your NIPs. But if they do, they need to be cognizant of what that means for them.
Yeah, we'll need to consider that decision very carefully, folks, before we opt into that one. So it does mean that the final week of LPL English will be for the culture, for the bans, for a couple of placement changes, but largely the stages have now been locked. You can see the post-game stats here once again, and it's pretty cut and dry. I'll be honest, there's not the same even 20 minutes that JDG were able to mount the first time around, at 20k gold lead or something to round us out here.
Yeah.
And yeah, this time it's Tarzan topping up that KP.
My favorite thing to look at in games like that where they are so one-sided is how big the losing team's gold lead was at any given point. JDG managed 15 gold as their biggest gold lead, which if I'm not mistaken was probably just 3 level 1 wards getting pinged.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's probably the sweeper from Shuo.
Yes,
that's about it. Yeah.
There we go. So, we get to see some of the highlights of this game, and if you're a JDG fan, you probably already turned off the stream, I'm going to be honest, but like, it's a good time to look away.
Yeah.
And this really felt like one of those turning points for me. If this fight goes just a little bit differently, then this game could be completely different as well. If they kill Tarzan here, they kill Shanks here as well, because that stun connects. He's rooted up, he's locked down, and that means that Shanks can't run away with the game. It would have been a 3-0 instead of a 3-1 against you. So, but then it means that this fight down on the bot side is just not even close, and all of the issues that JDG had in this game, largely fall back to the fact that Xiaoxu was so weak in this early game, and the fact that Flandre could do that, but also that bot fight that we just saw.
Yeah, and you could see even that second round of the bot lane play, Scout's already so low that Flandre is just cleaning up the mess at that point. It's just a done deal at this stage, and the way Tarzan's just been leading the charge in this series is so strong. Even if we're not necessarily playing for the 1v9 champs that he's so proficient on, his bridging and skirmishing play is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, again, super clued in to the win conditions that they have to play for, from what I've seen from LPL today, both in the first series and in the second one. That's been like a massive takeaway for me, is these teams, when they identify their strategy in the win condition, they can stick to it like glue. The best teams are able to identify how they're going to win the game, and they will not lose sight of it.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that AL were just on top of that throughout the series really does sort of lend credence as to why I'm hoping that they can be, one of our big ticket teams moving into Worlds, not just into the playoffs. But they've got to get there first, and obviously that's easier said than done when you have got teams like Top Esports, like IG, that could maybe, pause and be in a bit of a tricky spot. But we have got an updated look at the standings as well.
Yes.
For these, for how these games have looked out.
So we do have AL locked up in the top 4 there. UP now
LNG are locked
blocked.
out. They have no more games.
I believe they are. Yes, LNG has played everything they can. They cannot get the same record. So UP locked in for that play-in spot for Nirvana. And TT sadly tumbled out yesterday already. So that top 4 for Ascent looks pretty nice for sure. And we said we'll see if this if the WE pick
I'm waiting.
Are we gonna be waiting? We're gonna be waiting for a long time for that one, perhaps. But who knows? We shall see. And there it is, Flandre, 2-for.
Good.
Locked up the double pogs right there. And yeah, absolutely good. When we needed him to step up, when we were questioning, we need to find a weakness. We need to find a way to make these games interesting. We need something to be exploitable. And we wondered if it was Flandre, and he said,
it was
fall
not
into my trap. Absolutely not. I'm afraid I'm actually the godlike in this game. I'm the MVP of the whole dang series.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for him, but or for Xiaoxu rather, but for Flandre, you know, it's back to business as usual for him. Where I think that was a very telling series and a really important one as well. You know, Xiaoxu, like I say, one of the players that we're looking at as potential All-Pro candidates coming into looking for that 3rd spot. But if as Flandre you're able to handle your business like that, you should be very happy.
Yeah, for sure. Now, next week, Monday to Thursday, the LPL English will be back with plenty more rip-roaring action. Even if most of the standings are locked, you know the games are going to be worth watching anyway. That's just the quality that this region brings. We need to give another thank you to our elite Kofi supporters before we wrap up. Aaron Soup, Meng, Forest Without, owners of a Cimmeril. Their pledged financial contribution helps level up the broadcast and give back to the cast and crew who strive to give you an LPL English product every single day. With that, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for having me, everybody. It might have been 2 O's, but we got to see some excellent gameplay. Of course, any time. Great to be back on the mic with Roodood. I'm sure we'll be back together before too long. But for now, thank you everyone so much for watching, and we will see you tomorrow for more LPL action.